In 2013, I coined the name Grampian, and I gave it to your host, Jim Tracy.
Wow, folks, today you're in for a treat. We did a study recently, and they said the odds of you walking down the street and meeting a Navy SEAL are about 1 in 1.5 million, might be up to 2 million people. I have had the good pleasure of meeting 3 across my life. And this one, however, is a special dude. And it's not simply because he was a Navy SEAL, it's about who he is today and what he's become. Folks, he actually doesn't need an introduction. I need the introduction, but this is the owner of Ampex Shooting and Ampex Blades. His name is Bill Rapier. And so pronunciation, Bill, help us out. Is it Rapier? Is it the French version? Welcome to the show, man. Welcome to the Grampian. We're so thrilled.
Well, first off, thanks for having me on. It's great to be here. Rapier would be how we pronounce our last name.
Okay.
Bill Rapier. Yeah.
All right. So I say you don't need an introduction, but for people who are not familiar with the name, 20 years as a Navy SEAL, which is kind of a little on the long side, but 10 years as Dev Group and 10 deployments. And what I don't hear people talk to you about is, man, they pinned a silver star on your chest. That's a career that is, I don't even know how to say it, man. You're just like, salute you. I thank you. I bless you. And I'm thrilled to have you sitting here. So, but you didn't start out life as a Navy SEAL. You started off as a kid, as a matter of fact, MK, or a missionary kid.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
So my folks were missionaries. Actually, my dad still is going overseas a couple times a year.
Wow.
We moved to Germany when I was 5 years old. So I grew up like a little German kid, basically. Got thrown into German kindergarten when I did not speak a lick of German. And it was within a few months I was speaking German better than my parents were that had studied for years before going over there. So I spent about almost 8 years in Germany, K through 6th grade there. And then we moved to the stateside to SoCal for just a short period, about 6 months. That was my first time going to an English-speaking school in Los Gatos. And then we moved to Swaziland in Southern Africa. And actually really didn't want to go there at the time and ended up loving it. Really enjoyed Southern Africa. It's beautiful. The people are really cool. Just really enjoyed my time over there. Did not spend as much time as I would have liked to. Actually didn't want to come back stateside when my parents told us we were moving back. But we moved back ended up being my sophomore year in high school. And we moved to Colorado Springs. And so I spent the next 3 years of my life there. And, that's where I figured out that going to the military academy was probably not for me at the time. I wasn't into studying much after my junior year or so, and ended up enlisting in the Navy the day after I graduated high school. So I shipped out. Actually, I enlisted before, but shipped out the day after I graduated high school. Went through boot camp at Great Lakes, and then Corpsman A School in San Diego, and then went to Buds from there, and then jump school, or first dive medic course, and then jump school, and then the 18 Delta short course, and then checked into SEAL Team 3, and then Dev Group, and now 10 years after retiring, we're up in North Idaho.
Yeah. So where did the military aspirations come from? Because you come from a family that normally people wouldn't say, well, gee, I mean, maybe moving to Southern California will drive you to beat somebody up. But I mean, you had some misspent youth as well.
I did. Yeah. So why the military? Honestly, I think, God puts desires and God makes us, right? He makes every part of us to include the part of me that really wanted to join the military, wanted to go do hard stuff and go, fight bad guys for the right reasons. And so yeah, I really that's what I would attribute to is just that's how God made me. I mean, I think I was 5 or 6 years old, where the first time I had pictures of myself with army greens on and a beard painted onto my face and holding one of my dad's old non-functioning single barrel shotguns. So yeah, I think it's just something that I was made to do.
Awesome. So, if you hadn't gone in the military, what do you think you would have done? I mean, was there anything else that was calling? Anything else you felt gifted at, or?
Ski bum was option number 2. I'm
As
serious.
long as you're not as long as you're not a snowboarder, that's all right, man. You know what you do with a snowboarder on your porch is just pay him for the pizza, right? Anyway, so you went to the Navy, but was the original intent to go into SEALs?
Yeah, so I guess original intent growing up, as soon as my dad realized that saying that I wanted to go in the military wasn't just a fad or a momentary fancy. He started saying, well, if you want to go in the military, you should go to West Point, the United States Military Academy. So that was my plan for a long time, is that's what I wanted to do until about my junior year of high school, where I started wrestling and started partying a little bit and really had no desire to go to any more school. Right. I think if I could have
Yeah,
joined right after my junior year, I would have, if I could have skipped
yeah.
my last year of high school, I think I would have done that. But yeah, I had basically
Yeah.
no desire to go to school. And so then at that point it was, what looks like the hardest organization to get into with the highest likelihood of seeing action. So I researched between Force Recon and Special Forces, and I knew nothing about Air Force PJs or CCT or any of that stuff at the time. But yeah, ended up reading a bunch of books on a bunch of different subjects, and came to the conclusion that the SEAL teams was what I wanted to go for.
Wow, that is an incredible adventure that you've been on, and it all starts with, I mean, you go to basic, and basic is basic and whatever, but then you decide that you want to make an application to the SEALs, and you go to Buds. I mean, tell us about that arrival and process at Buds.
Yeah, so Navy boot camp was honestly, it was there was many times where I was wondering, did I make a very big mistake, because uh, about the most stressful thing was folding your clothes and making your bed and then getting yelled at about it. So I was doing PT on my own time after lights out. I was getting out of my rack and doing push up and flutter kick workouts. Uh, so yeah, once I made it through that, then I went to Corpsman A school, because I did not have a guaranteed slot in Buds. They tell you to be wary of recruiters. Well, I told my recruiter I wanted to go into the SEAL teams, and he told me nothing about the fact that I could have actually been guaranteed to at least get a shot at going to Buds.
Best
So I
salesman
didn't
in the
know that.
world, those recruiters.
Yeah, you got to watch out for those guys. So while I was going through Corpsman A school, there was a SEAL that was there that was teaching, and he was the dive motivator for that command. And so his policy was that if you want to go to Buds, you have to take the SEAL PT test, the screening test, every 2 weeks, basically every time he did it. So every 2 weeks I'd be out there
Wow.
doing it, and by God's grace, I did end up getting a billet to go to Buds right out of Corpsman A school, which was, that wasn't a guaranteed thing. So that was huge that I got that shot. And then, yeah, went to Buds, excuse me, checked into Buds. I believe it was Thanksgiving Day of '94. And they looked at me and they stamped my orders and they said, get out of here. Don't come back until Monday. And so thus began, classed up with class 199, went through Hell Week with 199, had a really hard time with running post Hell Week. pre-Hell Week, never failed a run, never, fell behind and call it getting gooned or beat. Right. So I didn't have that happen to me at all. But then post Hell Week, I couldn't hold an 11-minute mile to save my life. I was falling really far behind, and so I ended up getting rolled in dive phase for, actually not for running though. I got rolled for dive physics because, embarrassingly, I had forgotten how to do long division. So I could do the physics part, but I'd used a calculator the last couple of years of high school for any of the higher math stuff, and so. Yeah, it was embarrassing. They put us in a remedial math course, me and about 8 other guys, and we learned how to do long division again. So then class back up with class 200.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, passed the dive physics test that time, but was still having a really hard time running, and so I ended up getting rolled on, I think it was day 1 of Draeger dive. So I'd already passed pool comp, which is kind of Hell Week and pool comp are the two big deselection devices of buds. So I'd passed pool comp, and then was told that because I had failed, multiple runs, that my options were very bad, and that basically I could either go to Balboa as a corpsman, and I was told that my job there would include cleaning out bedpans, or I could go back to first phase. And I said, I'll take first phase, sir. And so
wow.
Went and put on a white t-shirt again. And so post Hell Week, you get a brown t-shirt, which is a really big deal. And so went and put on a white t-shirt, and went from day 1 of Draeger dives to, I think, life-saving test, where you got to go in and save people. But so that was painful getting rolled back like that, but it did allow me, that because the pace that the class was running at was slower. And so it really did allow me to build back up. And I don't think I failed any more runs after that, or I don't think I fell back on any runs either. So it ended up being a good thing. So I ended up graduating with class 201. It just took me a little longer than most. It took me about a year to get through.
Dude, you're a runner now. You're a rucker. I mean, that's what you do. That's how
So probably it's in part because I'm still terrified of falling behind. I mean, I'm just getting to the point, how many 30 years later now, to where if someone's a step ahead of me, like, I don't have to run and actually be a step ahead of them. I think it was just a mental thing for a long time. My friends would complain because if we're just going out for a run, I would always want to be one step ahead. And I think it was in part just because I was so paranoid of falling behind that that was ever. So yeah, I do.
Wow.
I really do actually enjoy running now and rucking. I've had some ankle issues for the last 2 years or so I'm kind of building back. I'm at about 3 to 4 miles every other day right now, it was a lot lower than I had been doing, but
yeah,
we're all getting older, and we got to work through injuries.
Well, I'm getting older. I can tell you, they told me at one point that they said, "Hey, man, you're going to lose your leg." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." And they said, "You're never going to walk right." And I said, "Yes, I am." And they said, "You'll never run again. Like, you'll never run again." And I just did a 5K and a terrain race. And on my 65th birthday, I'm going to climb a tower. So don't stop, man.
Awesome. Yeah. I think the moment we stop PTing and doing hard stuff is the moment that we're going to die a few years later. So I think it's super,
especially
super
when you're
important.
not built with a runner's body.
Yeah, which I'm not.
Me neither. All right, so people don't really understand. They think that you made it through buds. You literally graduated, and you have the title of a SEAL, but you're not really a SEAL yet, are you?
Well, so when I went through buds, you did not get your trident until well after showing up at a SEAL team. So nowadays they go through, they graduate buds, and then they go, a few days later, they start SEAL qualifying training, which is another 6 or 8 months. And then upon graduation of that, they get pinned with their tridents. When I went through, you didn't get your trident until after you'd gone through SEAL tactical training at your SEAL team that you'd been at. And then you went through a probation period and had oral board and, a bunch of other stuff. And then after you'd been there for a while, you got pinned. So I would say that the training is definitely better and more consistent that the guys do with SQT now versus
Hmm.
STT that I went through. But I think it's better to wait because dudes are just cockier. New guys are cockier when they
Yeah.
show up at whatever SEAL team they're checking into with a trident versus showing up still, nothing. Your jump wings is all you'd have there. Uh, that things progress, right? And now I'm the old guy
Yeah.
talking about how I think it was, that's the only part. The training's definitely better. The guys show up better trained, hands down. They're better trained now than when I showed up at a SEAL team.
Yeah. So you talk about back in the day a lot, and I'm sure that is an essential part of remembering it. If you don't remember it, um, but the journey at the Grampian, we talk to people, and a lot of people want to talk about like the Super Bowl moment, and I don't like to talk about the Super Bowl moment because that's that little short hit of dopamine. It's the grind that it took to get there and the people that were alongside you during that grind. So, who in your climb up to the becoming a Trident Pin SEAL was influential?
So checking into SEAL Team 3, yeah, I remember Mark Crampton was one of those guys. He was the senior chief when I was checking in, and he's just very very professional dude. He had not seen combat up to that point, and I remember being terrified that would be me down, years later. Being he was I think an 18 or 19-year guy at the point at that point,
Wow.
and he missed Vietnam, and then there wasn't a whole lot in between Vietnam and 9/11, OEF. There's wasn't that there was little things, but not a whole lot. So he was one of the guys. There was guys in my platoon. One of my good friends, Josh. He was a former Ranger, and then had done inter-service transfer, and so
Mhm.
he was a few years older than me. Definitely looked up to him. Solid dude, right? It was funny. I remember when we're doing IADS, immediate action drills, and we're doing it in a very kind of choreographed manner, and uh, I remember him pulling me aside one time after doing it and going, "Hey, man, this is not how you really do it." Right, because we were getting a bunch of guys up and moving online at the same time, and we were putting a large volume of fire down, but it was a very controlled thing. So then I was conflicted because here's a guy that I look up to, and he's telling me, "Hey, man, this is not how you're going to do it." And then I've got all these SEALs that honestly didn't have that much experience at the time, uh, telling me no, this is how we do things. And lo and behold, once the shooting started, he was absolutely right. You do IMT, right?
Yeah.
Short rushes. I'm up, he sees me, I'm down. Versus these, long, you're not getting up 8 dudes at a time and all running together
Yeah.
perfectly online. I mean, it's a good training step, but that's not how things roll. So yeah, Josh is definitely one of the guys. I mean, the other guy. I mean, there's always. I mean, it's one of the ways that we get better is you pick guys that are better than you, and they don't have to be better at every part, right? And this is an important distinction, right? Just because someone is a better shooter than you, or a better fighter, or they have better fitness skills, any of that stuff, doesn't mean we emulate every part of their lives, because they might have areas of their life where they're a complete disaster, right? Or where you completely disagree with how they're doing things. But we can still look at certain aspects of their life and go, man, this guy is really squared away in this aspect, and I'm going to try and model myself after that. And I mean, that's something to this day that that I do, and that we should all be doing, is look at the guys that are doing stuff well. And it doesn't mean they have to be doing everything well, but the things that they're doing well in life, man, try and emulate those guys, and get better at life.
That's mentorship, right? I mean, isn't that the essence of mentorship?
Yeah, 100%. Well,
Yeah.
mentorship would then be you doing that for the guys below you. you grabbing guys and saying, hey, like, let's work on this, or just encouraging guys in certain aspects, or saying, or just, taking that time to teach. uh when you see someone doing something suboptimally, you could
Yeah.
you pull them aside and you say, hey man, like, this is there's maybe a better way of doing things.
Yeah, when I talk to people out in the speaking circuit, I was a lot of times I use a medical model as an example, and in the medical model, you're going to dig this as a corpsman, but watch one, do one, teach one, and that really is something that we could all take a page from, right?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, that's a great model right there. And then as soon as we start teaching, we get so much better ourselves. I mean, whether it's teaching guys how to, drop their weight, or do seatbelt grip on someone, and then deploy a tool, or whether it's preparing, a mini sermon for father son ministry, uh,
Yeah,
we end up getting more out of that than anyone else does.
yeah, for sure, sure. So you mentioned 9/11. Everybody, especially in our demographic, our age grouping, I guess, um, and we know exactly where we were and what we were, much like my parents did on December 7th, 1941. And there's a whole generation now behind us, is the first generation that was not around and does not remember anything about 9/11. So, two questions. One, where were you? And two, what did it spur in you?
I was sitting on the quarterdeck at Dev Group. I was filling in for, it wasn't actually, I actually did not have duty, but we had a training a training event going on with Swimmer Dude, good friend now, Jeff Litch. He was at the command teaching our guys how to swim better, because this dude is crazy. He swims marathons, literal marathons. He swims them. And so we would hire this guy to
That's
come.
painful.
Oh yeah, I know. I don't ever want to swim that far. So we would hire him to come and teach us how to swim better. And so
Yeah.
I had to fill in for the guy that actually had duty. So I'm sitting on the quarterdeck, and when that, when the first plane struck, and then all of a sudden the phone starts ringing off the hook, and an hour or two later, I got relieved and was able to go up into the team room, and kind of watch it develop, watch the towers fall, and honestly, all of us were. It was exciting. I mean, we were
Yeah.
obviously, it's somber to realize, wow, there. I mean, and the numbers at first, we were thinking 50 to 100,000 people had died. So it was, on one note very somber, and on the other note, like, okay, we are definitely going to go to war over this. And
Yeah.
uh, if you're in the SEAL teams, and that's not what you want to do, you're probably in the wrong profession. I mean, I was terrified
Yeah.
that I would not end up doing something for real. And so, there was a huge level of excitement, and I actually remember being mad that we had to continue going and practicing our swimming, that afternoon of 9/11,
It's
because
payback time.
I wanted to start loading magazines and be ready to go.
Yeah. Wow. So, so you get introduced into the teams, and then you decide dev group is where you want to go, and explain to people this is like the top 5% of the top 10% of the top 50% of the top 100%. So as you drill down through that, what is it, and why did you want to go there?
So first off, I did not even realize that Dev Group existed when I joined the Navy. I just knew there was the SEAL teams. I did not know anything about Dev Group. Got to Once I got to SEAL Team 3, then I started hearing little whispers. And then my first AOIC had been a prior enlisted guy and had been at Dev Group for a short period of time. And so I started getting some stories from him, and then, just kind of seeking out guys. And, when you're a new guy in a platoon, you're not even allowed to say that that's what you want to do. Your job is just to
Yeah.
work on being a good new guy. And
Yeah.
So I didn't even tell anyone at first. It was just, anytime I was just focused on being as good as I possibly could be within the platoon. But I knew right away, like, that this is what I want to do. And I just couldn't tell anyone until I got back from my first platoon. And then
Yeah.
as soon as,
Do your job.
yeah, exactly. You got to be good at your job first before you can try to get to an even better job.
Yeah.
So as soon as in between my first and second platoon, I was able to screen for Dev Group, and uh, did the screening, and then got picked up, and then a month or two after completing my second deployment, I went to the East Coast and started selection.
All right. So, is there things without stepping outside of protocol that you can talk to about what Dev Group is, so the folks who don't understand that there's something beyond what it
It,
is?
it's just there's a different mission set, and there's a more rigorous selection process, right? So my selection class had maybe 50 or 60 dudes in it, and they were all good team guys. They were all good frogmen that had been. I mean, just to be able to go there, they had to have good reputations. They had to have performed at the SEAL team that they came from in order to be able to come. And I think probably almost half of those guys were cut. So it's just a different mission set, and it's not.
Yeah.
Some guys don't like doing that kind of stuff. I loved it. I very much enjoyed it. It was hard. Every day was a challenge, and you get to work with honestly some of the best dudes on the planet. Very, very, very focused. Mission oriented guys. So it's a huge
Yeah.
privilege to be able to stay there for as long as I did.
And you get some cool new tools.
Oh yeah, I mean, they pay you money to jump out of airplanes and go shoot bad guys, and yeah, it's awesome.
Awesome. All right. So, when you look at the qualification process for that, are they looking for what's up here? Because the physical, you guys are all on pretty. You're all on a pretty standard. I mean, you guys are elite athletes. Let me put it that way. I mean, you're literally an elite athlete at that point. You're at the top, and so when they select you, is it for your countenance, for your decision making, for your brainiac, all the above? I mean,
All the above would be the short answer. I mean, they're obviously, you do
okay,
need to, there are different levels. Even within good athletes, there are different levels within that. But again, that's not the main thing that they're focused on. Even within good
sure,
shooters, there are different levels of good shooters. Also, not the main
yeah,
thing. So there's a lot of stuff. Decision making process is a huge one. Like adaptability. How fast can you learn? How fast can you adapt to new situations or scenarios? Is another one. So there's a lot of stuff. It's absolutely the whole thing. The whole person is taken into account, because if a guy is maybe a little bit weaker on his pistol shooting, but he's a stud, maybe he can run really good, or maybe his pistol shooting and
yeah,
his running aren't good, but man, the dude just is like, he's heads up when it comes to doing training, and he's always, anytime guys need help, he's helping and mentoring and trying to teach guys, like, that counts for a lot more than can you run a 6-minute mile versus a 7-minute mile, like, because in the grand
yeah.
scheme of things, that doesn't really matter.
When you get to that level, it's and we're in the for how many years have been in the tower business, small teams, defined objectives, compressed time frames, and high stress and higher risk than most jobs. And the thing that's important with us was always, dude, can I count on you? If I get hurt on a tower, can I count on you to get me down? And that really, in essence, is kind of what you're talking about, the decision matrix and the physical capability. But hey, just don't drop me. Can I count on you?
Yeah, 100%. You got to be able to trust the guys that you're working with. Yeah, they need to be good guys.
All right. So we're going to shut down this half hour, and I just want to thank you and hope you'll come back, folks, and Bill, for next week when we're going to talk a little bit more about the person, Bill Rapier, and dude, will you come back next week and we'll try this again?
Awesome. Thanks for having me on.
All right. This is Jim. I am the Grampian, and our guest has been Bill Rapier. He'll be back in next week. Thanks. This is Jim, and I am out. When you get an opportunity, subscribe or follow wherever you get your podcast.